That's how we own it.
What's up, family? It's your girl, Tamika D, Mallory.
It's your boy, Mysonne, the General.
And we are your host of Street Politicians, the place where the streets and politics meet. Mysonne Leonard. Because of our scheduling today, we have our guests coming on a little earlier than we thought, so we're going to have to cut some things, and that's okay with me because I have one thing, my thought of the day, that I would like to talk about today on this here show.
Oh, you trying to get straight to the nitty gritty.
Going to make some people upset. I believe in holistic wellness, 100%. When I was a kid growing up, my parents rarely gave us medication because they believe wholeheartedly in holistic wellness, right? Now, when we travel to Africa, we learn that in the garden, they grow different types of medicines that are currently being used for things that we use in terms of actual medicine, not just holistically today.
Well, the ingredients, pretty much the ingredients
make up actual medicine. So anesthesia is growing in the gardens of Africa, specifically in Ghana. And you know that if you go to get a leg, arm amputated, your tooth pulled, whatever, certainly if you have termination of pregnancy, if you have any type of surgery that requires you to go under, you have to use anesthesia in order to be able to do that. Anesthesia can be very dangerous too, which is why when we were in the botanical gardens in Ghana, the gentleman said, you can't touch it, play with it, taste it, nothing, right? And I asked the dumb question, well, how do you just have it out here? Like, what if someone puts it in their mouth? And he's like, well, why would anybody be eating trees? And I was like, oh, okay. See, again, those are negative or stereotypes that get into your head about Africans, and it came out of me right there in the park, in the garden. But if you're going to get something serious surgery done, you need your anesthesia so that you can not die from pain.
Okay.
I think there are people in our society that need to take their medicine, or if they don't know that they need a medicine, they need to get it. And if there is a holistic way to approach their conditions, then they need to go heavy into that as well. And sometimes holistically, we might not have the right formulas or whatever, but you need your medicine. People need their insulin, right? Once they have diabetes that gets to a certain level, they have to be able to take their insulin. Yes, you could clean your body. My mother definitely, with her diabetes, her and my father got on an extreme workout schedule, 7 miles a day, walking in the morning. They ate better. They did all the things you could think of, and they were able to change the trajectory of her diabetic situation, very much so. But she still needed her medication to help with some of the other challenges. She was seeing things on her hand. You know, she was feeling like when she was cooking, it was worms and different things because she was having hallucinations because of the diabetes. So I'm saying today that there are people out here that need to take their medicine. And I'm not talking about Wild Willie who's running up and down the street. Because, you know, we often will say, okay, people need to take their medicine, and we assume we're associated with somebody who's just, you know, out of control. They look like they tripping, and we say they need to take medicine. There are people who are high functioning, depressed, they have anxiety, they are dealing with mental health issues, they're high functioning, they look wonderful, they look perfect, got it going on, dressed nice and all of that, but they're nasty attitudes, miserable, negative, damn near ready to die by suicide, eating disorders. There's a lot of signs that people are dealing with mental health challenges that are not getting addressed. People do not have the right formula. And as a result, we are dealing with a lot of crazy things. And I, of course, can't tell the story of right now or at all of what it is that I experienced that made me feel this way. But it really is on me that we have to start encouraging people to seek professional help for a variety of issues that you may be dealing with and get the type of help necessary. Now, at one point, I had a doctor that wanted to put me on Ritalin when I was really depressed. And I chose not to do that. But we found something else. And I take that medicine, and it is very helpful to me to keep me balanced so that my anxiety does not take over to where I'm aggravating you, aggravating everybody, Linda, everybody around. I got an attitude, I'm snappy, I'm not feeling good, I can't rest. People need to take their medicine.
I mean, I agree. You know, I also agree that a lot of shit is mind state, right? There are a lot of different individuals. There are some individuals that they require, they're not going to be able to fix it themselves, right? They're not going to be able to dial it back, right? There are some people that need to go to a rehab, right? There are some people that don't need to go to rehab. Some people say, I'm gonna kick this shit by myself and then completely stop doing it. Some people are sick that they've been diagnosed with sickness and they've been able to holistically change their trajectory. Other people can't do it. So I think it's individual based, right? I think you have to know you. I think you have to be able to make proper assessments of yourself. Like, and then if you have the right doctor, then they'll be able to make that assessment, right? They'll be able to make an assessment and say, wow, you've been doing, maybe you don't need this medication. You know, maybe they'll be able to,
pharmaceutical companies are not inclined
to tell you not to. Now, I'm not talking about the pharmaceutical.
And the doctors work for the pharmaceutical companies.
But some of it depends on the doctor that you have, right?
Right.
If you have somebody that you believe in that's properly invested in you, I've had doctors that have said, don't take that medication. You know, I've had doctors that have said, oh, they said give the kids, don't give them that shit. No, we're not prescribing you none of that. Just let that baby do this and take the baby home and give them this and make sure they eat this way. So there are doctors who are personally invested in your safety over than just selling medication. So like you said, there are people who need it. There are people who are not going to be able to function without medication because it's the way that they're wired. I myself, I'm a person that's very rarely had medication. Like with the exception of me having a toothache, like the toothache was probably the only thing that I've ever said to myself, I gotta take some painkillers for, because the shit was dramatically, or allergies. With the exception of me taking Zyrtec, because the shit is just, my eyes is watery to the point, and there's no way, no shit I could do, they itching to the point. With the exception of those two things, there's very rarely a time that medication was something that I was into.
Well, maybe, and that's okay. Listen, I'm not suggesting that everybody needs medication, and I'm not suggesting that there are not, again, holistic ways to deal with your issues, because there certainly can be. Because one thing I know for sure is that when dealing with my son's hyperactivity when he was young, the main thing the doctors kept saying to me is, if you don't want to put him on medication, you have to stop the sugar intake. You can't let him have a bowl of cereal at home or French toast with syrup and then send him to school, because when he gets to school, he's going to be high and then low, and there's all types of agitation that goes on in between it. So you got to do vegetables. You got to start out with an egg, sausage, cup of milk, whatever it is that helps them to feel better and not be, feel full, but not be so riled up. So I understand that. I'm just saying that there are some people who have not even, because you made a powerful point, made an assessment of what's wrong with them. They don't even understand the issue, but they just go out in the world making other people's lives miserable. And I just think, it's just got to be a better way. So I'm just suggesting to people, find out what you need, right? If you hear your family members saying, wow, like you're so mean, or you're in the workplace and you feel like people don't really want to deal with you for some reason, or you find yourself feeling like you're always alone, like in your, you're always like at odds with the people around you who you should have positive, for the most part, relationships with. Or, you find yourself constantly hearing from people that you offended them or you upset them or whatever. You just try to find out, is there something going on where maybe I'm dealing with depression and therefore it makes me negative? Maybe I think negatively all the time. That's actually an issue, I'm not going to say it's a mental health crisis, but it's an issue, you automatically come from a negative place when you respond. That's not healthy. Right. And a lot of people don't even know because we've never been taught about the signs of mental health challenges. We've never been taught about anxiety. Like white folks know that is a thing. Okay. They get medicated for anxiety. They get therapy for anxiety. Black folks have been dealing with anxiety for eons. And we've never been taught that. We never knew what it meant to have hypertension issues as a child. We never knew. And we really do need to try to get to the core of some of the issues we have. And if you need medication, take it. And if your medication makes you feel funny, because some people, when they take medicine, it makes them feel tired or not themselves, they can change it. But you have to be committed to trying different things and figuring out what is the right formula for me. You can't take one medicine and be like, that's why I'm not going to do that anymore. And you have to do your research, but you got to be committed to your well-being and your mental health, for real.
I agree.
Well, on that note, our guest is already here, so let's bring him in and introduce him. Okay, family. So speaking of our friends, you know, you hear us all the time with our inside outside joke that so many of our friends are doing powerful things across this nation. And we bring them on as our guests. Why not? It's our show, so we do it how we want. And we invite our friends to come and talk about the work they're doing. And, you know, we have an incredible change maker who's joining us today, who is a friend to us personally, as well as a friend to the community in New Jersey, abroad, the entire New Jersey, but of course in Newark. And that's Councilman Dupré Kelly, who is better known to most of us as Do It All. So we're going to get into some special things about what this gentleman has been able to do, going from being a platinum selling artist to the first person to go from being an artist at that level to being elected to a political office in the city of Newark, New Jersey. And so, as I said, he's making waves across the country, certainly across the state of New Jersey, but specifically focusing on his activism, which has turned into his political career in the city of Newark, New Jersey. Thank you so much, Councilman, for joining us today.
Thank you, Tamika. Thank you, Mice, for having me. I really appreciate all the work that you guys have been doing over the years. You know, it's very special, it's needed. So I salute you guys as well and say thank you. And before we even begin, man, I just want to say we just got some bad news here in Newark, New Jersey. I just want to say rest in peace to our Lieutenant Governor. You know, Sheila Oliver passed away today. You know, I'm sure you met her before. Both of you probably met her. Yeah, you know, and I think she, you know, she's all about that woman empowerment and
absolutely
and having our Black sisters do their thing. So I know she was a big fan of yours, Tamika. That's why I just wanted to say rest in peace today to her and her family, and condolences to her family and everybody.
Wow, that's so sad.
Yeah, it really is, man. Condolences go out to her and you know, to the whole state of Newark, city of Newark, man. It's crazy.
State of New Jersey, right?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah. So let's get all into it. I mean, I know that folks are going to want to know about some of the specific work you're doing there in Newark, but I really want to hear, first of all, as Do It All, I want to hear from Do It All. I'm just about that transition, and was there a transition, or is just another stage and level in your life, and you still feel extremely connected to the culture, to the music, which I believe that you do, but what it feels like to be the first to go from being a platinum selling artist to now being an elected official. What are the great things about it, and what are some of the areas that you feel are a little difficult and challenging?
You know, first of all, I'm never gonna stop being hip hop, ever. You know, I tell people that I am what hip hop looks like grown up. You know, I get to govern in the same blocks that I grew up on. I mean, born and raised in these areas, I get to govern those streets where I jump gates and ran from police and was involved in mischief, and also those same blocks where I learned how to galvanize people and pass out community events and get involved in community events. And it's the same area that myself and Redman sat on my porch, and we talked about when we were 10 years old. We talked about the changes we were going to bring to our community. That's why manifestation and words are powerful, because we talked about that, and it's only really powerful to me just because in hindsight of actually living it and doing it now. So it's just an amazing thing that I get to allow to, I've done some things that made my mother have disgust in her face when I was younger. And I was able to see that, I guess the lack of better words, see that frown turn upside down, and through my work in the community, through my work as a hip hop artist, I have to give a lot of props to my first manager, Hafiz Fareed, who managed Lords of the Underground, Muslim brother. When you think about Lords of the Underground, we didn't really curse too much in our records. We never really called women the B word, and which was good when I started the campaign, because they didn't have anything negative to reflect on from my hip hop career. And he really kept us on point. Here he has three black males, 3 black men who come from single mother homes, who didn't have fathers in the house. He became our dad on the road. And then, we got money early. So, especially when you get money, it doesn't come with instructions, especially when you never had any money. So he was that guy that kind of kept us grounded. And he would say stuff like this. If I said something with a B word in a song, he would say, "Oh, that's dope. Who you talking about? Your mother, your grandmother?" And I would get defensive, like, "What you mean my grandmother?" He said, "Well, see, just the way that you just swole up when I asked, was that about your mother? People are gonna, if you disrespect women, that's how they're gonna feel when they hear that word." Or so he challenged us, but he never told us to change anything. He just challenged us to be better, to think differently, to change the mindset. And one time, in this document, I've been wearing Newark on my apparel and clothes for, since I was 19. I'm 52 now, so it was just like, I'm sorry. It was, so one day he asked me in the studio, he said, "What have you done for Newark lately?" I got defensive again. I'm like, "Oh, I wear Newark on my hat. I got it on my clothes. I always represent on every television show." He was like, "No, I didn't ask you about representing. I asked you, what have you done for the city of Newark lately?" And I really didn't have an answer, and it hit me like, wow, here it is. I'm bragging about my city, and I'm pulling and taking away from my city, but I'm not pouring it back into my city, and I started to take my hip hop money, and tried everything, right? Everything from community, the book bag drives, the turkey giveaways, all of the low hanging fruit stuff, which is important. But in the community world, it's really the low hanging fruit stuff, and I just started to do that. And by doing that, it started putting me at the doorsteps of the residents and my friends and my family again. And they started to see that I was serious. And they asked me to be the voice, just asked me to be the voice through hip hop, talk for them and use hip hop to get the message across in the community. And that's what we did, just through hip hop, man. So the neighborhood that I'm from, Rod Digger's from there, Queen Latifah's from there, Redman's from there, the Artifacts. It's just so many people. So like I say, it's this is what hip hop looks like growing up. It was just a natural transition. And on the other hand, people love you until they don't. Everybody wants you to win, and you guys know about it. People, when you're doing great things, you assume that, oh, we're doing great things. Everybody's going to be happy. And then when you get into it and you're the one, then you start to understand and respectfully how a Malcolm X was killed, how a Martin was killed. Because you would think like, wow, why would somebody want to hurt somebody that's doing something good? But you have your opposers and people with your opposition and people with different, mindsets and different views and ideals that just don't match up with yours. So I think, you know, for me, going from hip hop to community, that's cool. That's easy in a sense. I did realize that community has a ceiling to it when you're doing community things and when it comes to fostering change. And then governance, I had to find my footing. You know, like, to be honest, it's been a little over a year. I had to find my footing and I'm still learning. You know, I'm still learning. But the politics is the part that is, I'm not really happy with it. And I know my team always tell me, stop saying that you don't like politics. You're in politics now, which is true. But I still don't like the movement of it at times, you know, because I don't come from the politics. But the politics is in all of those things. So it's not an easy task, but it's a worthy task. It's worth it. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, my partners, my DJ, he lives in a beautiful mansion in Miami. My other rap partner, he has a beautiful home in Northern California. I live in one of my buildings on right in the hood, right in Central Avenue in Newark, New Jersey. And I'm right in the mix.
But how is that? How does that, like, how does that feel? Like, being amongst the people, do you feel like they receive you better? Do you feel like how do you feel living amongst the people?
I love it. You know, Mice, I don't have to be here. I have to be here.
And you said it's your own building. So
yeah.
real estate.
Yeah, I'm in partnership with, you know, I don't even tell everybody some of the things that I'm in partnership with the city because we got a lot of haters, but, you know, yes, you know, it's our properties, you know what I mean? So we're working, man. It's us being part of our own community. And to answer your question might sound like, I love it because I'm right there with the people. And it can be difficult at times because you're so accessible and you have to be careful. You know, because you can't think that everything is good because history has showed that your own people will be the ones that to get you up out of there. And I mean, like I said, it goes from all of our people that we love, our advocates, the people who fought for us down to Nipsey Hussle, you know, who was right in his own neighborhood. And you would think, oh, you're safe in your own neighborhood. So I'm always aware. And the way that I interact with them is firm, is fair, and they know me, but I don't take anything for granted, you know, because anything is possible. I don't have 20 security guards rolling with me. I don't have one security guard rolling. I got a couple of my dudes who, when we go to certain things, that make sure that I'm good. The neighborhood makes sure that I'm good, but I make sure that I'm not in those places unless I have to be in those places as well. You know, and,
so what do you think has been your biggest challenge? The biggest challenge making that trend. What is your biggest challenge you feel? And then what is the thing that you enjoy most?
That's a great question. My biggest challenge is navigating through the politics. If Mysonne and Tamika Mallory has a different opinion than me on one thing, that doesn't mean I don't like them or like their what they're doing. We just disagree on maybe one thing. But if that thing goes against the team of whatever team I'm associated with, and I take a picture with you guys, it's like, well, why are you in a picture with Tamika and Mysonne? You know what? I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like
that's a real thing. That's a real thing. What you're saying.
It's a real thing, you know, and it's just kind of learning how to maneuver through the politics of it all. That's my biggest task. You know, when people I never had so many people scream at me, or, you know, I've had people not like a record. We still give each other a pound. We keep it moving. They might still buy the record or still come to the show. I have people say, you know, I didn't really feel the record, but when I saw you on stage, man, it's not that way in politics. They just, you know, I was in office for a month and they were just hating me. You know what I mean? Like some people. And then you got to realize that those are 5 people, or those are people who don't even vote, or those are people who don't even do anything themselves. So you got to learn how to quiet out the noise. And I had to learn. You know, I used to be in council meetings responding to everything. Well, it's that. And then they, you know, I had to learn that I'm just fueling them to continue their rhetoric instead of just not, just kind of blocking out the white noise and keeping the receipts for the work that I do and showing up and being present, because you can say you don't like something, but you can't tell me that it's not my truth. You can't tell me that I'm not present. You can't tell me that I'm not putting in the work, whether it produces a great result, a minimum result, a small result. You can't tell me that I'm not doing things to push it forward. And as long as I keep the receipts, I'm cool. And the thing that I do like, Mice, is that to see the smile, to see the difference that I make when I do the work. And I'm talking about from the smallest thing to autism signs to getting the bus stop moved for Miss Williams because she's elderly and she has to walk in from 3 blocks, but getting it moved to the middle of her block just makes it comfort for her, to putting stop signs on a block where a lady in the motorized wheelchair is moving along, to actually creating ordinances that help our residents fight against greedy landlords and things of that nature. So it's so many different things that on a municipal level that I love. I really think that the local politics actually trickle up, because I think that the things that we do here makes the state react. The things that we do here makes the county react. The things that we do here ultimately makes the federal government react.
I think that's 100% true. One is, you can answer that second. The first question is, how does having a mayor who supports your vision, I'm sure maybe not all the time, but he ultimately has an empowerment agenda and he comes from activism himself. How does that help you, or how does that make you feel when you're out trying to do your work, that you're not in opposition to the leader of your city? Because there are many council members who are fighting to get things done to change, as you said, the city ordinances, the bus stop, all the things you talked about, which seem perfectly common sense, right? Like, it's just common sense. These things should happen. And then you're up against a mayor who does not have the city's best interests at heart from your perspective. So tell me one about that, then I'll ask my second question.
I want to say, man, salute, double salute to the Honorable Mayor Raz J. Baraka. I was out with Raz, fighting with him when we were just young lords of the underground. He would call on me. We didn't have social media like that back then. So he would call on me. He would call on Redman. He would call on us to galvanize the people. Yo, I'm shutting down this street. He was just a young activist. I'm shutting down this street. We're going to be talking about this. I'm making a list of demands. What are some of your demands in your community? Because we're giving this to the administration. So to see him go from that, a list of demands, to actually putting the people in place and doing check marks, checking off some of those things that were on those demands is amazing to me. To have an ally and not an op, as they say out here, is beautiful. It's a lot of reasons why I ran, but I knew that I can add value to the administration of who Team Baraka is, who they are. And he knows that. Even when I lost in 2018, that wasn't before a meeting with him and I. And he was like, dude, politically, my list is already filled up. My team is already filled, but you will make a great councilman in this city, and I will back you. He's always been supportive. When he was an activist, he's been supportive. When he was a mayor, he was supportive of my nonprofit organization. And when he asked me to be on his team, ultimately, he's supportive. I literally just came out of a meeting with him and him being supportive. Me talking to some personnel here in City Hall about things that we need in our community, and me having more tension with them, and not bad tension, just about the process of getting those things done. And this guy is fighting for me. This mayor, he's fighting for me. Like, no, we need to get this to happen. And he's one that stood alongside me and fought for a rapper to become an elected official. Like he's forward thinking. And you're right, Tamika, I might not agree with everything with him, but we have conversations about it too. You know, I'll give you an instance because I think it was blown out of proportion. There's a George Floyd statue on the steps of our city hall. I am for the George Floyd movement 1000%, right? And I stand with it and fight with it. I just had a different ideology about where the statue should be because of the impact. So I said, maybe we should have, and maybe I should have did it a little more privately, you know, but like I'm learning. But I said, maybe we should put it on our new police academy. So when all of those new police officers come in there, they see that as a reminder of what not to do and what to be a part of. And he came back and said, I respect that, dude. But I put it on the steps of our city for a reminder of the people who has the power in this city. And I was just like, wow, okay, I knew what he was talking about, you know, and I respected what he said. I didn't agree initially of where the placement, but in reality, we both agree when it comes to George Floyd. You know what I mean? So things like that, man. And
it's crazy because I was literally in City Hall having a meeting with Mitty when that happened.
Right.
So he's sending him texts. He's like, "Oh my God, what happened with you?" And I'm like, "What happened?"
He called me right away.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh man, they saying he don't want George Floyd." I'm like, "Nah, I can't believe."
Nah, they blew it out of proportion.
Yeah, okay.
They blew it out of proportion.
Well, and you talked about that. You also said something else that I think is powerful, and I don't think that we can, sort of gloss over it. That there are also people from the state of New Jersey who have unfortunately experienced abuse, murder at the hands of police, and they need placement as well. And I don't disagree with that. I think that's also true. And so perhaps the meeting of the minds is to create some type of memorial outside of the academy that has the names of local New Jersey residents who have also experienced the same type, maybe not exactly as George Floyd. We know that George Floyd is bigger than George Floyd. I mean, he represents, that moment represents a moment in history where the entire world had to acknowledge the racial discrimination, the oppression, the abuse, state-sanctioned violence, all of those things at once. But there are other people who need their voices lifted as well. And I think that your idea is something that in the next council, you should be pushing some type of memorial outside of the academy that really looks at some of those other individuals and their stories. I think the point is that we should, and one of the things about politics that I think upsets a lot of people, makes them feel that they don't want to participate, is one, that compromise is very difficult for people in their regular lives, And I know that, one of the things I was going to say to you earlier, but you was saying, you were speaking, it was so good that I didn't want to cut you off. But I know that even though y'all didn't say a lot of curse words and whatever, you definitely were not people that need to be played with, right? So now when you're trying to talk to people and they talking crazy to you, you kind of like, yo, like, like, I don't know where I'm gonna go with this. Like, I'm trying to be the council person, but but you're trying to take me to an old thing that I'm trying to get away from. So that's an issue, because in compromise, sometimes it's difficult for people to hear one another, to respect one another in compromise. And then what happens is the whole system shuts down. And the voters, the frustrated voters of our society, see the shutdown and they are like, to hell with it. You shut down and I'm going to shut down too. So everybody has a shutdown. So the thing I think about Ross or Mayor Baraka that we appreciate is that he is very good at navigating tension.
He is. He really is.
People moving despite the fact that there may be difference of opinions and a lot of different issues, because he's dealing with a lot of people coming from the most radical to the most conservative side of the spectrum all of them trying to come together, and he's really good at navigating that. So I think you're in a great city to be your first year as a councilman. You know what I'm saying? I think because there's a lot of other places. If you were here in New York under Mayor Bloomberg, you might have been in jail.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And you know, I just like, once again, I want to thank them, because I don't walk like them. I don't talk like them. You know, I don't even dress like them. But I can see my inspiration and my influence starting to influence the entire city hall. And that's just and it's not just me, it's the culture that we come from, that hip hop culture. You know, I got wearing sneakers with suits from Russell Simmons years ago, you know, and I just did it. I didn't make it up. But I tell you this, my mayor now does it. My everybody in this building does it. And that's just to say that the power of who we are as people, who we are in a community, and my governance now, me as an elected official, I just pray that not only to the people in City Hall, but to the people who are outside of City Hall, the people who are in the neighborhoods, because I think when you change your mindset, you change your viewpoint, you change your vantage point of different things. And I just believe, like, when you can change that into love, when you love something, you treat it differently, right? You know, when you love your city, you can change it. That's what I believe. But a lot of people don't love themselves. And sometimes when you don't understand something, you push it away. You know, you shun it, like, oh no, I don't eat that, but you never tasted. Oh, I don't want to go there, but you never been there. Oh, I don't want to, you know, so we push it away. And I think that a lot of people, they really don't understand the process of politics in our city. So, you know, you'll get people coming to the council meetings and they're loud, but wrong. You know what I mean? They're very loud. And the people like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but Google it. It's absolutely wrong. You know?
It's not just your city, it's politics, period, right? I had a conversation. It's people don't understand politics. They just think we want this to go this way, and it should just be, you be able to snap a finger, we voted you in, and you need to just be able to do this, right? And I used to be one of those people, right? Until I started having friends like yourself, having friends like Jumaane Williams, who is the public advocate of New York, Natasha Williams, who's also city council in Queens, and just a plethora of other individuals who work in government. I started to understand that the things that we wanted weren't as simple as we thought they were. You know, it's not just you snap a finger, we vote you in, you should be able to do whatever you want. And when you start understanding that reality, you start looking at things different. So I've had those conversations with people, you know, and they be like, nah, you don't. And I'm like, no, you don't understand there's the process that it goes through. Yeah, we have to continue to push our elected officials and make sure that they advocate on our side and make sure that they're doing what they said, but it's not always up to them, the shit that you think supposed to happen. So you can't just put all the blame on them, but people don't want to hear that. When you living in a community where people are frustrated, people are hungry, they poor, it's a lot of things going on. Me and Tamika was having this conversation yesterday, that it's a lot going on with people. People are in so many different, it's so many, like we get calls, DMs, emails, so many different people that's dealing with so much different trauma and stress, and you know, things are not going right, and they looking for somebody to blame. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times we get the blame.
Or somebody to hold accountable.
Hold accountable.
Right.
People just want accountability, but there's also some people that just want to blame people too. So there's a balance between both of them. Like we get thrown under the bus for shit that we got nothing to do with. Like if I advocate for one person because I know their story, and they be like, oh, you phony because you ain't talk about JoJo who got shot here, but you gonna talk. I'm like, well, I didn't even know Joe. I didn't even know JoJo got shot. How are you holding me accountable? I don't know nothing that got to do with JoJo, but this is how people start putting things in their mind. So I never wanted to do politics based on that, because I watch what y'all actually had to deal with, and I want to be able to say and do what I want when I want. I hear you. I love the fact I've actually evolved, right? But I still want to be able to say, look,
I see you, bro, and I'm proud of you too.
Yeah,
man.
But I still want to be able to say, yeah, you can't talk to me crazy. I'm gonna take you around the corner, and we're gonna have to get 5 minutes. I want to be able to do that. That's the reason why I want to go into the public office.
Yeah, but I think you are an example, though, of why more Black men should consider running for office to make the change that they're looking for in their local communities, right?
Right.
You think about a Congressman Jamal Bowman in New York. This man is a teacher, principal, turned now a congressman, and he's gonna go further. I know he is, right? Yep. And I think, and of course, there's a side of me that is in that has to push back even on what I said, because Black women certainly need to run for office more, but the support that's necessary for a Black woman to win is very challenging. And then for her to stay in position, because the system so easily comes up against Black women, and you know, people just kind of like, oh, well, I mean, if you think about the list of Black women, from Kim Foxx, who's the state's attorney in, where's Kim, in Chicago, to Marilyn Mosley in Maryland, and the list goes on, and how they are being ripped to shreds, literally ripped to shreds. It makes other Black women run. But I think you, Councilman Kelly, are an example of why people should run. They need to, but you can't just run for your one seat. You got to look at the entire city, because now when Council, at the time when Do It All helps Ras Baraka become mayor, right, then you run for council and you have other friends that run for assembly, you start to corner off your community and be able to make the type of change that you're looking to do. So I think more Black men should certainly gather with that thought process in mind.
Yo, that's an amazing example you just did too, Tamika, because that's really what it is. We helped Raz become mayor, and in turn, he helped me become councilman. You know, and I think that with us going back and grabbing each other, and we have a woman council president, and LaMonica MacGyver, and he was her 5th grade teacher. When she was in the 5th grade, Raz was her teacher. Now she's the president of the council and part of his team. I think that people are not really looking at the succession, and we have to prepare for that too, right? You know, we have 9 council members here in Jersey, and some people, you know, in different states, different cities, there's a different body of municipal council. But here in Newark, we have 5, one that represents each ward. We have 5 wards, and then we have 4 at-larges. So I represent the ward that I grew up in, which is about 70,000 residents. You know, in some places, 70,000 residents is the whole entire city. You know, so I really have a mini city that I have to govern over. And one thing I can really say is that Mayor Ras Baraka allows me to govern over that city, over those residents, and all of us. So when it comes to talking about bringing people along, we have to set up a farm system. You know, one of the reasons that I am councilman.
Farm system, a farm system.
Farm system, yeah, farm system. You know what I mean? So the reason, one of the reasons that I am councilman is because of a conversation that I had with Tupac Shakur back in 1992 in a motel in Orlando, Florida, while on tour. You know, and it's crazy because that conversation, I'm on Pac, Laws of the Underground, and Tupac was sharing a 16-passenger van. We wasn't even on tour buses yet, you know, and we was in a motel where you had to go in the room outside, not inside, you know what I mean? So, but just to fast forward the story, Pac came to my room, and, you know, we had an altercation before that day. He came to my room, first of all, like a man, to squash it, you know what I mean? So he came to my room, and through that conversation, we got into this conversation. He said, dude, we have to turn millions of record buyers into millions of voters. And then once we do that, and he started naming all of the rappers that was popular back in 92. You know, he would say, Common has to do it in Chicago. You and Tretch, you and Redman need to do it in Newark. Tretch needs to do it in East Orange. Ice Cube to do it in Central Los Angeles. I'll do it in Baltimore and Oakland. And he just started naming all of these people. And he started to talk like a 20, 21-year-old that I've never heard talk like that before, you know, and saying that we have to be accountable and start youth organizations and youth groups and protect our women and protect our seniors. I mean, he was blowing my mind. And then he said, you know, we have to do something that we might not want to do because, you know, all rappers were against politicians. He said, we might have to become legislators. I almost didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, legislators, man, we rappers. He was like, yeah, but if we don't make the laws for us, or if we're not at the table making laws, ordinances, and codes for us, then they will make it for us.
Wow.
And it won't be for us.
Before us.
You know
We
what
can
else?
stay and talk to you for the rest of the night. Go ahead, my son.
We could definitely stay and talk to you for tonight, but I just want to show what hip hop is. It's so big in the culture of it. Like, just looking at the connection of you and Ross, people don't know that Ross loves hip hop, and he actually has a hip hop album that you guys created. I've watched him create. You understand what I'm saying? And listening to his lyrics, you know that he's so influenced by the culture. And now it's time for the culture that influences this world to dictate and govern this world. And that's what it's showing. It's showing like, and it's not just that it's just governing. When you look at Newark, it is a model for governments all around this world. Like, the way that you guys deal with violence and the way that you deal with community is a model for the world to look at. It's not, I'm not just saying it shows the culture. When you are culturally competent and you have respect in your community, when you take community leaders and community credible messengers and you connect those back to the communities that they're governing, you will see the change. So that's something that inspires me. When I watch you guys, it inspires me to do the work that I do, because I know the work that I do, even if I'm not one of those government officials, I'm inspiring someone who's going to be in the next, who's going to be there. They're going to say, okay, I've seen what my son does in this community. I want to take that and I want to put it in these political offices, even if it's not what I do. So I just want to say what you do and where you come from is so motivational, inspirational for a lot of us, man. So continue to do the work you do. We salute you. You know, you're my brother. I'm gonna be
my brother, man.
With you all the time, working with you all the time. I just want you to give us, one last word that you would give us before you leave.
Before I leave, I just want to add on to what you're saying. I know you guys got to go, but just talking about Newark being a model and having a leader like Raz J. Baraka in the seat who does things that really push our city forward. Today, we just, in our pre-council, tomorrow we'll vote on it, but he brought the Temple of Hip Hop to Newark, New Jersey and gave it a home. Harris One is now opening the school of the Temple of Hip Hop. And I seen him try to open this in Harlem. I seen him try to open it in the Bronx. Raz Baraka gave this guy a building. The Temple of Hip Hop is now located in Newark, New Jersey, South Ward. Wow. Like, that's amazing to me. We got the teacher here that's going to be running programming out of our city. That's an international hub now in Newark, New Jersey. That's just, for me, that's just like bringing Prudential or Mars or, you know, to the building, one of those corporations. He just brought a solidified value to our city in the teacher with KRS One and the Temple of Hip Hop that are going to do many great things. So, man, Newark is definitely becoming a model for certain, man. You know, and one last thing too, Mice, when you talk about our men in our communities, I just started this thing called Men Talk Sundays, where we go into the parks and I grab all of the men, all of those. And I guess that's why I still have certain relationships with them. I go to these communities and I tell them, I need you to come talk. I need you to, what it was inspired by, a big gangbanger here who I have a relationship was mad at me because I wasn't returning his phone calls. But he don't understand, I'm just really busy. So anytime somebody has an issue, I go right to him. So I went right to him. What's up? What's the problem? Nah, dude, I don't want you to get no big head for being in a, no, it's not that. But look, I want you to come with me for the day now. I want you to work with me. I want you to build with me and see what I do. And he came with me. We went to lunch. We had an amazing conversation. But what that conversation showed me was that we need each other. I learned something through that conversation by him pouring into me. I'm pouring into him. And it inspired me to grab all of the dudes from the neighborhood, put them in the park. I had Redman as my keynote speaker talking about facing your fears. And when I said this man did amazing, people were like, you gonna have Redman as your keynote speaker? Yes. Yeah, yes. He has experiences about facing fears. Anybody, can't tell another man about his experiences. So man, when I tell you he inspired these brothers, man, and I say that because August 27th is our next Men Talk Sundays in the Park. And Mice, I would love you to be my keynote speaker for that day if you're available, man, August 27th. And we can talk.
I'm definitely gonna try. I'm gonna try because either August 26th or 27th, I do my annual day in the Bronx. So it's Miriam Day. I usually do my annual day. I had to push it back to either the 26th or the 27th. So I'm gonna decide if I do it on the 26th, what happened? I ain't available that day.
Look, she looked right there.
I'm not gonna say a thing. I just.
So it might not work. So I don't even know.
But we'll get you one day if that don't work.
Definitely, because I'm actually doing a men's talk inside in September. I'm gonna do a big. I want to hold about 500 men. Where I'm sitting down with 500 men, and we're gonna iron out, and we're gonna decide how we're gonna govern our communities, how we're gonna take back our communities, how we're gonna love on our young kings, how we're gonna raise them, how we're gonna show them what real right to passage is, what manhood really is. So it's a line. The work we do is definitely a line. So we're gonna figure it out. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Definitely, man.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We just need to go. We got to go to Newark and sit down and talk as we have in the past and do it again, because there's so much to be said. And I think, I'm having prophecy moments here. I think you really do need to be doing videos and things, encouraging people to run for office and telling them your story, right? Like short clips of videos. This is what I did first, second, third. This is how I did it. This is what you need to be involved with in your community prior to running. Because there are people who ask me all the time, but I just don't know what to do and how to do it. And I think coming from you, because, people are attracted to success. So coming from you, who is successful at selling music, I think you will also be successful at getting our people nationally to be more involved in politics.
And Tamika, before you go, I have been doing that. So I started my lecture tour last week, and I started it in Charleston, West Virginia. And the lecture tour talks about how arts and entertainment can foster change in community through policy and politics. And I started in Charleston. I have Tampa, Orlando, Milwaukee, Winston-Salem, and Charlotte coming up next.
Awesome.
So
that's what we need, and we want to help you promote it. We gotta let you go because we've got to end this show. We would never end if we let you continue to stay and keep dropping these great gems. Thank you, Councilman Dupré.
I love what y'all are doing, man. For real, I'm definitely a supporter.
Thank you, Councilman Dupré Kelly, who is better known as Do It All.
Appreciate you, King.
All right. And Mike, we're going to talk about it, man.
Yeah, definitely.
We can get you. All right. Thanks, Mika.
All right, King. Peace. Man, shout out to my brother Dupré. Do It All Kelly, man, one of the realest dudes, man, one of my favorite hip hop artists. If you don't know Lords of the Undergrounds, a lot of y'all young dudes probably don't know, but go look it up. They got some of the dopest music. He's one of the dopest artists, man. And just watching his evolution is inspirational to me, with the work he's doing, not only just the work he's doing, the way he's doing the work.
Yeah.
He's doing it in his authentic self. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people think that you have to look a certain way, sound a certain way. You have to capitulate to a certain narrative in order to do the work. And he's not that individual. Like he says, he walks in there with suits and sneakers. He got his Newark hat on. He brings the culture of hip hop with him into, the councilman's office. So he's motivational to me because I always want to be authentic in myself. I always want to bring the streets of the New York City and the Bronx and bring the real voices of my community into any space. And I don't want people to think that you have to sound or look a certain way. So he's motivational to me. So shout out to him for the work he's doing. We had a good interview. So I don't really have a I don't get it today.
You do have it, I don't get it. Oh, maybe you don't. I have plenty of I don't get it, but we can save one.
I do have a I don't get it. I just don't get how they had a fight that was heralded as the biggest fight in the century,
Oh, boy.
where one of the boxers looked like he was an amateur. And there's no disrespect because I'm an Errol Spence fan and I think he's a dope boxer, but I'm just trying to say, I don't know. I do not get what happened. Like there's been a lot of things. If you look at my Instagram page, I said I think he was high because he looked high. I've heard.
I didn't know what you was talking about. You know my challenges with sports.
Yeah, I was just like, man, he just looked high to me. And then one of my friends who's also a Errol Spence fan, sent me something that said that, he was thrown out of a moving car at 100 miles an hour. He was in serious injury and he came back to fight. And, he's had a few fights since, but they saying that he's dealing with neurological, injury, and they can tell based off that. So this was what some quote unquote neurologist was saying on the internet. I don't know, but I just don't get, I've been watching boxing my whole life. My father used to have me sitting in front of the TV watching boxing matches my whole life. And I've never seen someone who was that top tier of a fighter lose that bad. I just never, and it's not taking nothing away from Bud Crawford because I have already said that I felt Bud was the better fighter. I thought Bud was going to win the fight. But the way that Errol Spence fought or didn't fight, to me, was just mind-boggling. So I don't get it. Maybe people can, whatever it is, he's either high, he was either dealing with some neurological, or he really just needs to retire. But a lot of people talking about, oh, it's a rematch. I do not want to see that Errol Spence that walked into that ring fight again ever. So I'm not interested in seeing that. I want that man to, because if he goes in there with that level of fighting again, he might really, because he was really beat up bad. If he goes in there fighting like that again, he can really suffer some real brain damage or something. So I don't even want to see him fight like that again. I don't want to diminish his legacy with him fighting.
That's powerful. Just to say, I don't want, because I thought you were going to say you don't want to diminish the value of boxing.
No, his legacy, he's too good a boxer. He's too good. I've watched him box and I've seen him. He's one of the most aggressive, punishing, like the way he fights. To fight like that, it diminished, because people was mad at me because I put my top 5 boxers right now and I didn't put him, and people was like, how? And I was like, because the way that he fought, it took him completely, right? Until he does something else. Like if I'd never seen
that
him,
happens,
I'm saying that's what happens. Like you lose. That fight was the worst fight I ever seen any top tier fighter ever have. Like I've seen top tier fighters lose that wasn't supposed to lose, that got upset. I've seen Mike lose. I've seen, Wilder lose. I've seen, but they was all in the fight. Like even when they lost, they was fighting. Like you could tell like some of them got a little slower. They got older, but they didn't get beat like that. I've never seen something like that where the man probably landed maybe 3 punches of significance. Like, not at 8 rounds.
How many rounds did they fight?
They fought 8 rounds. He got knocked down 3 times. And then, they fought 9 rounds. They fought 9 rounds. He got knocked down 3 times. And then the 9th round, they stopped the fight.
It's pretty sad. I mean, I didn't watch it, but I saw sure was a lot of chatter about it on the internet. But I do appreciate that you said you want the man's legacy.
He's too good. He's too good. Yeah.
Some of our leaders, there's a similar conversation that happens as you see, look at now what has happened with Reverend Jesse Jackson, who's now passed the baton to Reverend Dr. Freddie Haynes, who is my dear brother, our friend, and Freddie, and let me say that again. Now, when we talk about making sure you preserve your legacy, you see even in this moment where Reverend Jesse Jackson has passed the baton of leadership of Rainbow Push Coalition, which is his organization, to our friend and brother, Dr. Freddie Haynes III, out of Dallas, Texas. And we know it's very clear that Reverend Jackson is dealing with severe illness. He's not the same as he was when he was younger, or even just 5 years ago. He's changed, because of his condition. And I think it was important because he's talked about passing the baton in the past, and we all have that. every single one of us who has ever led something, whether it be a company, even your toy that you had when you were young, a shirt that you love, you hold it so dear, but you look crazy now that you've grown to a big woman size and you still trying to wear the same shirt that used to do it for you at the club when you was young, and now you outside with your stomach hanging over and people looking at you and you embarrassing yourself. So you have to learn how to pass things on to the next person that's going to take care of it and love it and treat it the same way that you had, to preserve your own legacy even more so than theirs. But it's to make sure that you don't have yourself out here looking crazy because you still trying to keep up with the old you, and the old you is not the new you. And I think, listening to what you said, I know nothing about the boxer you spoke of, but I think that what's most important is your health. You know what I'm saying? I think we have to start putting our health first and not taking opportunity first and then trying to figure out how to back into the health. And I know I'm speaking as a person who doesn't always listen to that, but I think this is an example of that type of situation.
Pretty much. And with that said, thank you for coming out. We love you. Brings us to the end of another episode of
It didn't come out. Go back.
Thank y'all for being with us. We love you. Brings us to the end of another powerful episode of Street Politicians. Shout out to Dupré Do It All Kelly, Councilman Dupré Do It All Kelly, my guy, for coming here, dropping some gems, giving us a lot to just ponder on, man. It was a dope episode. Hit us up at Street Politicians Pod. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Tell us you love us. Continue to make us the #1 podcast in the world, because I'm not going to always be right. Tamika D is not going to always be wrong, but we will both always, and I mean always, always, always be authentic.
Peace.
Listen to Street Politicians on the Black Effect Network on iHeartRadio.
And catch us every single Wednesday for the video version of Street Politicians on iWomen.tv.